ETE Imhotep Sani Sanet Uncle Jah Sanab Ba'u Imra Uncle Jah Sanab Dua 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 Dua, and thank you for joining. Asaram Karani. Asaram Ka is my name. Thank you all for joining. And today, of course, advertised, we'll be talking about if your God does not beget, means the implications of it, and also the ramifications if it doesn't. If your nature does not beget, how do you come into existence, right? We have several cultures who tend to get shy about this particular aspect of nature. They're nervous. Even our brothers who claim to quote unquote respect and venerate the nature, they're nervous about this particular aspect, right? It makes them nervous because of a few things. This century, or last century, I should say, in this particular life cycle, what brought it out was a good brother, Sheikh Ahmadidat, who debated Jimmy Swaggart, Anna Sharouche, Billy Graham, amongst others. And he said, we don't equate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it belongs to the lower functions of animals, such as sex. You have the Christians, God only beget one, and that would be Jesus. For so the Lord gave his only begotten son, John 3:16. We'll cover that today as well. Hebrews, who also feel a certain way about it, but you can't really pinpoint the Hebrews necessarily because you don't know which one they are. You don't know which type of Hebrew it is. It could be a Messianic who believes in Jesus. It could be a non-Messianic who does not believe in Jesus. And then there's the question of Adam. How did Adam come into being? Right? So all these questions to be answered today. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. Let's get to the business right now, right? I'm going to start with a couple words, and we'll probably also cover being nervous about words such as pagan. Scared to death of those words. No, I'm not a pagan. I don't worship my ancestors. Come on. Right now, that's how you look, conscious community. Look in the chair. Most heck in the chair don't really. We know what it is, right? We're not nervous. Okay, we're okay. And the more I continue to divulge information about other cultures, they're loving of their own ancestors, you seem to get a little more comfortable with it, which is good. That's what I like to see. Stop being scary, yo. If you're scared, you scared. Lewis for bringing skirt into our lives. But let's start with some words, right? First of all, us beget. What does beget mean? It is a verb, literally. In the third person, begets, past tense begot, past tense begat, present participle, and begetting, past participle, or begotten. Okay, so those are the different derivatives of this verb and how they're used in the English language. Let's start with definition number one. It says, typically of a man, sometimes of a man and a woman, bring a child into existence by the process of reproduction. So most of you are scared to say that your God reproduces, right? because it belongs to the lower animal functions of sex. My brother Sheikh Ahmadida, he did a fine job when he was debating Jimmy Swaggart. Jimmy Swaggart had a big lifestyle change after that, because he was trying to beget with other people besides his wife. Weren't you, Jimmy? I know. And we don't want to throw Jimmy under the bus. It just the message to you, and you denied the message, and your God or nature, acted upon you, right? So moving forward, back to beget. It says they hope that the king might beget an heir by his new queen. So that's one way, right? Synonyms for this are father, to have, to bring into the world, bring into being, spawn. He begat a son. Things are good things. These are what we do. This is what most of nature, all of nature does. It brings forth something. It sires something into existence. You don't really know an aspect of nature that doesn't do that. Now, do you? No, not at all. Let's move to the second definition. Rise to, bring about. Success begets further success. That's a synonym, or that's a, that's an example. Cause, give rise to, result in, bring about, create, produce, engender, spawn, occasion, precipitate, prompt, provoke, kindle, trigger, touch off, stir up, whip up, inspire, promote, and literally to enkindle. So I could say something like violence begets violence, right? So the word beget, which is an old English word, says to obtain by effort, to beget. And everything is attained by some type of effort, right? Whether it's a thought, uh, whether it's willed into existence, whether it's an imagined dream, aspect of the universe is going to be get. You can't really get around that. You're going to produce something. It's going to come of you. The begetter. It will be the begotten. Whatever it is. Whatever it is, right? So now I'm going to go to the creation story. Because I think it should be observed in a much better light. And I'm not going to go I'll get to some others later, but I'm going to go to the big one, the biggest one that everyone talks about, because it talks about sexual nature in it, right? I'm going to go to that story. But before I go to that story, real quick, do a screen share real quick. Just so we can look at the word begotten. Then I'll unshare my screen in a second. To understand the implications of that word this morning. It's acting foolish. So forget the screen share, right? We'll get to that later. Look up the word beget. It's not a very difficult task, right? But what we will do, get rid of this here, is go into the creation story. So we can take a look at that, right? And here we go. Let's let's delve into it and break down some of this stuff so we can get a full understanding of what's happening. Because heck in the chair praises of the divine, we understand that our creator begets. He begets. So we begin, right? It says, Shat intirek keperu nura chetu nebercher chetef imket keperev nupu keper im kepera keperna keper keperu neb imket kepera ashet. What does that mean? It says, the book of knowing the evolutions of Ra, of overthrowing a pet, the words of Ra Neber Tesher or Neber Chair, he spake or spoke after he had come into being. This is what he says after he had come into being. He says, I am he who came into being in the form of Keperah. I was or became, Keperna is the word, the creator, Keper, I created, of what came into being. Let's go forward. Let's go further a little bit into the Medunecha, and then we'll come back to the English. The creator of what came into being, all. All. So Lord of, or creator of the creator of what came into being, Lord. So he's the Lord of that, because it's Neb right there, or all it can be used as in this particular sentence. Im ket kepera ashet, after my coming into being, many ashet, right? Let's go up. Here we go. Medunecha. Keperu imper im ria et en keperta en kenan satat chetef or chetfet imbet pui. The things which came into being, coming forth from my mouth, Re'ah, not existed heaven or pet, keper pet, that didn't exist yet. Not existed earth and keper ta, that didn't exist yet. And created the things of the earth and plants in particular, he's saying. So he says, and kinam satat, and then creeping things, imbet, in place, pui, that, okay? So the things of the earth and creeping things in place, that they weren't into to being yet. They had not come forth. Only him and her. Not just a neuter now, right? Let's go further. It says, Thesna am sinem nu im inen and kimna bet ahana ami kutna im abda. Sintina im ma'a arina aru nebet uak asheshna im shu. And so right there, I raised up them from out of new. Now, what is the new? We'll get to the new in a minute. Remember, though, he raised these things up from out of the new, from a state of inactivity, and then inactivities. So M is to be inside or of or from, and then inactive, inert, not moving, not do, or if they were moving not much, right? So they were in that state of inactivity, inert. He says, not found I a place I could stand, wherein I worked a charm upon my heart, my abta'ah. I laid a foundation in ma'ah, not ma'at. He laid a foundation in ma'ah. I made attribute every. Made his attributes, everything in existence from ma'at, right? He says, Sintina im ma'a, arina aruna bet. I laid a foundation, Sintina, im in ma'a, righteousness. Arina, I made arunebet, every attribute. Who was he with? He says, Uak and Asheshua Imshu, and I was alone, for not had I spit in the form of Shu, and not, let's see, let's read the, let me make it bigger. Let's read the rest here, right? He says, and Tefna, Im Tefnut, and Keperki, Arinef, Hinna, Sentina, Im Abeta, Chessa. Had I omitted Tefnut, so he hadn't omitted Tefnut, not existed another who worked with me. I made a foundation in my heart my own. Keper Ashet Keperu Nu Keperu. There came into being the multitudes of things which came into being, of the things which came into being. Im Keperu Nu Mesu Im, from out of the things which came into being, of births. So we know Mesu, births. Nu Mesu, of births. Let's go back a little more. Keperu Nu Mesu, the things which came into being, or in other words, Keperu Nu Mesu. Keperu is more Keper, is more of himself. Nu of, from the Nu, and Nu of Mesu, birthed. The things he created birthed more things. And these things are more attributes of himself. They're more attributes of Keperu. They're more attributes of Kepera than they're Keperu. Okay? Im Keperu nu Mesu sen Anukpu hata. It says, from out of the things which came into being of their births, I, even I, had union. He had union with the things that came out of their births. Im kefa ta'atna. Im kerna im ri'a chesta. Right? So he says the things which came into being of their births, I, even I, had union with my clenched hand. I joined myself in an embrace with my shadow. I poured seed into my mouth my own. So he's telling you right there, which is represented by Na'unet, for those of you who don't know, is what he had, the bringing about of and with. Whatever. Some people you use derogatory. He's jacking off. That's what they say. See right here, he says the things that he birthed, I, even I, Anupu, had union. M, with, or of, or in his clenched hand, which he already shows above, is what? His shadow. He says, I join myself in an embrace with my shadow. He says, ta'atna em kabiti a kirana. His shadow. I poured seed into my mouth, my own. I sent forth issue in the form of shu. I sent forth moisture. Im shu tefnet na'a. Im tefnut and atef'a nu. In the form of tefnut. Say my father nu. They make to be weak my eye behind them. Satet sen ma'ata imsa sen henti huasen. My eye behind them, because for double henti periods they proceeded from me. Okay? So he's showing you right there that he begets. He used his shadow to beget. He calls his shadow his clenched hand. He later defines it as who? Tefnut. and sends forth the moisture. So he begets. He said it earlier. He says, Kepara, Sina, etc., etc. Begets more Keparas, more forms of himself. Our nature begets. Ugliest version of the story, which was written by some outsiders, just because we want to face all things head on. Face that. Our nature begets. Big deal. Right? Now, let's look at the universe. The universe is made up of a few different things. And if we say that the Nu and the Nut, or whatever, the Agdad, the Pesejetu Kemenu, the Necharu that reside in Kemenu, that reside amongst you, that are outside of you, if we say they're conscious, make sure this claim is true. So we need to look at the universe, right? We need to make sure the universe is conscious. Get ready to open your mouth. Stand strong. It's watch time. All right. Stability is in the building. So let's look at dark energy and dark matter, right? I'm gonna go and use. I'm gonna go to one of our Hindu brothers' description and breakdown of it, right? I think that'll be good. So, scientists observing the universe found that the mass that exists in the observable matter in the universe cannot account for the gravitational forces which are needed to hold the galaxies together. That's number one. Recently, scientists have confirmed that observable ordinary matter in the universe make up only 5% of the universe. And actually, it's about 4.7 and some change, according to my teacher from Tokyo. The rest of the universe are filled with 23% dark matter and 72% dark energy, which cannot be directly observed. While dark matter permeates every galaxy in the universe, dark energy is the force driving the expansion of space between the galaxies. Both dark matter and dark energy are the biggest mysteries in the universe. This will be the Amen portion of the Nu. Let's look at dark matter first. Dark matter interacts with gravity, interact or colliding with normal matter. Dark matter does not emit light or absorb light. Dark matter permeates the galaxies where billions of them pass through us every second. Dark energy is repulsive. Dark energy does not come from dark matter as it is repulsive with dark matter. So is the claim. It is believed that dark matter would have pulled the galaxies together, then pushing them apart would be the dark energy. Like a wife and husband. So let's go to dark energy, right? Further and further away, outward of galaxy, the velocity of orbiting gas and dust remains constant, supposed to slower at the outer of the galaxy. There must be a lot more mass. Okay, so there's more mass further away. Most of the mass from the galaxies are from the dark matter. The ordinary matter accumulate in the gravitational field of the dark matter. At the moment of the Big Bang, dark matter was created and it played a critical role for the ordinary matter to clump together. Dark matter acts like a scaffolding upon which ordinary matter can attach itself. It is like a cosmic web, like a spider web, ends of dark matter, and where these strands intersect like a scaffolding pattern. In a sense, dark matter is a framework. It is providing a scaffolding for shiny galaxies, which we can easily see. Scientists wonder why galaxies are formed in seemingly random patterns across space. Now scientists know it is because of dark matter's gravitational pull. Dark matter is acting like a skeleton around which visible material is clumping. Now, let's go a little further. Well, I'm going to read the rest of that part, right? So dark energy is very different from dark matter. Not really. It doesn't clump up like galaxies doing a cluster. They work together, even though, we're reading an observable science from one of the Hindu brothers. So like stars do in the galaxy, instead it appears to be quite uniform. We find the same amount um, we find the same amount acceleration no matter which direction you look at. It appears dark matter and dark energy have been at war with one another since the beginning of time. Science believes that dark energy was created along with dark matter at the moment of the Big Bang. It has always existed in the universe, but the gravitational forces of dark matter keep it in check. Expansion of space during the first 9 billion years of time. Now, he puts them at odds with each other, but they're not really at odds with each other, because as the dark energy formulates things, the gravitational pull of the dark matter formulates those things into being. So how he sees that as a battle is beyond me. But whatever. We're just like I said, we just grab something and let's play with it. This changed 5 billion years ago when the universe grew big enough so the dark matter was dispersed throughout the universe. So the dark energy was not as affected by the dark matter's pull. As a result, the universe starts to expand at an accelerated rate. So that dark matter always keeps check. So it's not like an explosion. That's why I don't like the term Big Bang. It's more like peeled apart. And these things rotate in axis in orbits. You see in most of the galaxy from your suns, from your planets on down, as if they're being controlled and willed into being. So not a war per se as the gentleman described it, but more of a plan as he described it. He called it a pattern, yet he said there's a war going on, which wouldn't make sense, right? Evaluate how he looks at the dark matter and the dark energy, how he looks at the noon and the Naunet. Now, here's a very important part. We're going to go to conscious energy and conscious particles real briefly. It's not clear from the above the cause and effect relationship between energy and matter in relation to the formation of the universe, the galaxies, stars, and planets. There also lacks a consistent theory for an end-to-end story to be told. Story we just read. Dark matter and dark energy could be the conscious particles or conscious energy, but it should be noted that conscious energy precedes consciousness particles, as consciousness energy is the source of all creation. So what did he say? He says, it should be noted that conscious energy comes before conscious particles, as conscious energy is the source of all creation. Vasubandhu's theory is definite in saying consciousness is the form of energy. Create very thing in the universe, including the laws governing them. There is also very well defined architecture, which is the sixth, we call it 6, 5, 12, 12, 8 structure. The birth of the universe is also called by this conscious energy, okay? And we're going to talk about that here in a second, right? Conscious energy creates, controls, and manipulates consciousness particles for creation. These conscious particles are interconnected to or intertwine with each other at the beginning of the universe. Some of these conscious particles are used to create quarks, electrons, and photons. Later, they are formed into protons and neutrons. From there, atoms were formed, subsequently planets, stars, and galaxies. Formation of them are through the conscious particles as well. So right there, when he says they're at war, that's all thrown out the door, as I had already stated, because conscious energy creates, controls, and manipulates conscious particles for creation. That means the dark energy and the dark matter come together and they create with each other. At the beginning of the universe, some of these conscious particles are used to create quarks, electrons, and photons. So he has to kind of rethink some of the things he states in the article, but obviously there brings it full force. So let's go to this number, 665, or what is it? 651,218. But you need to understand what that means. This is the formula for the universe's thought process or cognitive process. So when you talk about the 65,218, you have to understand what that means. These numbers are the breakdown of a few different things. Artificial consciousness is actually derived when you take the 65 off the 1218, which is equivalent to a computer hardware with the operating systems as explained in artificial consciousness. So the 1218 symbolizes that to a degree. What you create as a human being in a computer system mathematically calculates to the same way the universe's cognitive process works. Now, let's go to the 651, 218, right? And get a breakdown for what these numbers actually are. First of all, the 6 is the 6 consciousnesses are eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind in consciousness. Let me see if I can bring up a figure here. Let me see if this screen share will work for us one more time. Share it. There it is. Oh, now it went away. Don't go away on me. Come here. Screen share, right? So first we're talking about the 6 externals: visual forms, sounds, odors, flavors, touch, and intention. The 5 aggregates. Let's see if we can pull up the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates of matter: aggregates of consciousness, aggregates of sensation, aggregates of perception, aggregates of mental formations. Then below you have the body of human or animals with 6 sense organs, conditioned preferences, trilogy of thought, and thought process. So we're talking about the cognitive process of the universe, and we're talking about the cognitive process of a human being at the same time. And that's because Nun and Naunet beget you. The other portion here, right? The 12, the aggregates of matter, the 12 spaces. What are they? Organs, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and your intentions. Let's talk about the 6 internals: visual forms, sounds, odors, flavors, touch, and mind object. And then let's talk about the aggregates of consciousness, which make up the 18 in the number. Because we just covered the 12, right? Now, let's see what makes it 18. The aggregate of consciousness, the sixth consciousness. Eye see, ear see, nose, tongue, body, mind. Again, influence reinforces consciousness, preferences, and affect emotion and body conditions. So these are the different things that affect consciousness and aggregates of mental formations, whether they're abstract concepts of longevity, time, and mathematics, which is what we're talking about. The mathematics being conscious or what allows it to create and to beget other things, such as you, me, and anything you can visibly see or possibly not see. Right? Now, let's get that out of there. Let's come back to our screen share. So the energy is conscious, and we know the conscious, or we know the thought process of the universe and how it works. We know its cognitive process. We know about it, but we know how it begets. We know how the senses it uses when it begets. And because we know those senses, we can feel comfortable as heck in the chair knowing we know how the Noon and the Naunet work. We know how our universe works. We know how the and the unseen portion configures once everything becomes visible in our visible universe. Right? We know everything is alive because we just proved that energy thinks and that it has a mind and a cognitive process. Simple as that, right? Now, let's look at some of our other brothers' faith, right? And let's see if it adds up, because we know the universe begets. We know nature begets. Does your God do the same thing? Let's see. Let's see. Let's go to John 3. And let's read through 16. Let's make sure that the cognitive process is the same, right? Let's make sure they're on the same page as us. Because if they're not, you know, there's somewhat of a flaw in what they have. Because we know how the universe thinks. And if you know how the universe thinks, how can somebody tell you against the order of Ma'at? Let's see. John 3:16. We'll go King James Version because I usually talk to Hebrew Israelites. If anybody else would like to use the New International Version, feel free to. You're not going to find much difference in the story, right? Right? Touching your mouth so you guys can open your mouths. The opening of the mouth, the opener of the way today, right? We're opening ways for them today. John 3. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. The same came to Jesus by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from God, for no man can do these miracles that thou do except God be with him. Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus said unto him, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Jesus answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. This is Jesus talking to Nicodemus. Marvel not that I said unto thee, yet must be born again. The wind blow where it listeth, and thou hearest, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but cannot tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth. So is every one that is born of the Spirit. So the wind blow, you hear the sound, and you know from whence it comes, and you whether it goes, wherever it goes. So is everyone that is born of the Spirit, right? You know what's going to happen to them. In other words, Nicodemus answered and said unto him, how can these things be? Jesus answered and said unto him, art thou a master of Israel? Knowest these things not? So Nicodemus is what we would call a Neb. Yet he's running up to Jesus as if he has no knowledge of these things about to happen. For Israel, he's a priest of the highest intent. Jesus is telling him, you should know this stuff. You're a priest. Didn't you study? Don't you know your astronomy and your astrology? Don't you understand what happens to the body when it leaves? Don't you know that energy is never dying? It's a process. We know what's going to happen. Let's read further. He says, verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. If I have told you earthly things and you believe not, how shall you believe if I tell you of heavenly things? And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. And he's talking to him on earth while he's saying that. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he has not believed the name of the only begotten Son of God. So is admitting, yes, Jesus has a small issue though, calling himself the only begotten Son. We just proved that everything is begotten. This is cognitive thought process. So if he thinks that he's the only begotten Son, there's an issue there. But at least he's willing to admit that God begets. We know nature begets. He knows God begets. But he says only he is begotten by him. So what does that mean about you? What does that say about you? If you're not begotten of the universe that created you and brought you into order. Maybe he forgot about Adam. Let's read some more, huh? And it came to pass when the king sat in his house. This is 2 Samuel 7. We have to make sure the other faiths are in accordance with us, right? Let's see. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, see now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of God dwell within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, go, do all this, or go, do all that is in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee. And it came to pass that night that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, go and tell my servant David, thus saith the Lord, shalt thou build me a house for me to dwell in? As I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, fake stories, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in tabernacle, in all places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word of any of the tribes of Israel, when I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, why build ye not me a house of cedar? Now therefore so shalt thou say unto my servant David, host, I took thee from the sheepcote, from the following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in earth. Where is it at? Where is it at? Shall build the house for my name. David. You know what? That's not the verse. Here's the verse. Something in that verse, but I can't find it. I don't really touch the Bible much anymore. But let's go. Jeremiah 31:9. Come with weeping and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am the father of Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So this is God saying Ephraim is his firstborn. Even though Jesus just said he's the only begotten son, the God of Israel, Ephraim is his firstborn. Right? So God is begetting Ephraim. Right? So it can't just be Jesus. Jesus got it wrong. Ephraim is the God of Israel's, the father to Israel's firstborn. Right? So even when we go over to Luke 3:38, it says, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. So Adam is who? The begotten of God. He's begotten of God. And he's first before Ephraim, even though the book says otherwise. Adam comes first before Ephraim. But Jesus got it wrong. Jesus said he was the only begotten son. So we at least know this book, which claims that Jesus is the only begotten son, understands the fact that everything is begotten, and was the son of God. Now, let's go to our Quran. Now, they're a little quirky in it. The brothers, the Christian brothers, obviously, they don't know who comes first, who comes last. But at least they have that portion intact, where they understand that nature begets. To our Quran, it says, Uhu Allahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, wa Lam Yakul Lahu Kufuwan Ahad, which is, He is Allah, who is one, Allah the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born. Is there to him any equivalent, or none are like unto him, if you will. And we can go further with this with our Muslim brothers because of the word huwa. The word huwa has a strange, it's strange, right? Because they say he's not begotten, none are like unto him. But they tell you, after, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, or it says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, beneficent and merciful. He is Allah, the one. Allah is he on whom all depend. He begets not, nor is he begotten, and none. So, points towards the inner nature of man, which attests to the existence of Allah. But tell me, my Muslim brothers, if the Huwa points to the inner nature of man, and Allah does not beget, how can the Huwa point to Allah's existence? That doesn't really make sense. That doesn't really stand up, brothers. So you have to look at that a little deeper, right? You have to go a little deeper. Sufis look at it like this. They consider Huwa as one of the names of Allah, and they are constantly engaged in repetition of the word Huwa. And Allah commands their holy prophet. Uh, uh, it says, O Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you who are teaching the world true, authentic and deep knowledge of Allah, tell the people that being whom their inner selves acknowledge, that is Allah, medium of all perfect attributes, and the perfect one in beauty and goodness is Allah, who is one and without any partner. So it's a contradiction. You're saying the Huwa points to your inner nature, man, and it lets you know the existence of Allah. But you would not know this inner nature unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it inside of you and beget you. So that makes no sense. They're two different peas from the pod, baby. That's not the same. It's not the same. Chalk and cheese, pardon me. Peas from the pod would be Christianity. Chalk and cheese, they look the same. They taste a whole lot different. Chalk look like cheese, but it don't taste the same. Right? You've seen string cheese, you know what it is, right? So that makes no sense. The word ahad means one, the unity of Allah. This means that he is one in his person, one in his attributes, and one in his actions also. Not the slightest possibility of duality in him. This is how you feel. Ahad, the one. So you have an issue there, my Muslim brothers. You need to look at it because the universe begets. Versus conscious. The energy is conscious. The noon is conscious. And the dark matter and dark energy interact with each other to create, to produce the Kepara moment. So your God does not beget. There's an issue because the universe begets. Everything around you begets. Whether you conjure it from a thought in your mind, etc., etc. But you claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not beget. Christian brothers, and possibly some Hebrew brothers. Your God begets, but you claim only one. The whole universe around you is begotten. Comes into existence. So because it comes into existence in that fashion, do you not see the rest of the world as a creative aspect of your God, of Yahweh? How come Yahweh only created Yeshua as begotten when the universe begets? Do you forget your teachings about the great he, she? That's when you were a Hellenistic Hebrew or Jew. You forget these things. You need to remember and regurgitate. Because when you regurgitate, it comes back to your memory. And then you don't so easily dismiss it when somebody tells you, that doesn't exist. That's a myth. That's a this. That's a this. It's so funny because being a Rametz lifestylist, being a teardrop of Ra, the sun produces Rametz, the rays. We are the rays of Ra, personified by whatever we were being nurtured into existence. We are the Rametz, the teardrops of Ra. Doesn't matter if you're from Egypt. Not everybody from Kemet was from Kemet initially. But they made up that society. If you don't understand, Rametz lifestyle is by faith. But not just faith, by knowing. by discovery, by real knowledge. You understand? So we know nature begets, and we have no problem with it. The whole universe begets. Animals, how do they produce more? Grass, how does it produce more? Plants, how do they produce more? The birds and the bees, how do you produce more? How do you pollinate? So when we tell you a SARS bandaged up in the chest, Nasut Biti, the bee from the south, and our set and Nekabet attach the phallus to a saw, gold with honey. A kite, a bird, and flies over him and draws from him Heru, his spirit, Heru. This is a story about the birds and the bees. This is a story about more begetting. Everything in nature around you begets. If your God does not beget, you have an issue because the whole universe begets. That would mean your contingent being that you have set up from your own whim, or wherever you got it from, is out of tune with Ma'at. It's out of tune with real nature. It has broken a law of Ma'at. And it's out of touch with the universe you exist in. How does that happen? So you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to find stability. You need to find your was. And once you find your was, we will come and help you open your mouth, open your way, open with guidance, with truth that doesn't go against the nature of the universe you exist in. Right now, you're having a hard time with science, but we fit just fine. We are right in the fold. I hope you enjoyed today. Uncle Justin, I'm sorry for being a little didactic. I was a little sleepy this morning. You know how sleep can be. You know how sleep can be, man. See, I'm still barely opening my eyes. I should have did it at 12 or something this evening, right? Remember who you are and be in the Sar, that universal soul that floats through all of us, floats through everything in the existence. My brothers, in the Quran, you see the bull, it says it runs through everything inside of the moon, outside. That little bull. Uncle Jocelyn, life, strength, and health to you all. Heck in the chair, HKN, N capital T, little R, to the Google site, to the Asaram Ka Google site, to the Facebook group, HKN, N capital T, little R, heck in the chair, praises of the divine.